Damo. It is us. It is here, the Footy Mailbag. I'm Clarky. Damo, I've introduced you preemptively because we're here to party, brother.
The season is finally here.
That's it. No more opening rounds, no more community series, no more fake simulation games, no more fake football, Damo. It's real.
I'm prepared to be very disappointed by this team I have put together and made 700 versions of.
Everything that I have done is wrong, and every thought that I've ever had is incorrect, and nothing you say will change my mind.
Oh, look, I mean, I'm looking at my team and I keep going, oh, maybe I could have this guy instead, but then I look at the options and the money I have left, and I'm like, no, I like my guy, actually. Like, I'm just looking at it and I'm going, maybe, like, it's when you're down to the last few moves in chess and you really have to think if it's worth going for the queen yet or not.
Damo, I'm the guy that people are like, I'm playing chess and he's playing checkers. That's me, I'm the checkers guy. Because I'm looking at my team and I'm just thinking, I should just blow this up and try again. And then I try again and I'm like, I don't like it as much as the last one. And then I was telling you, off camera, I tried to put it back together and I put it back together wrong. And I have more money than I used to have. So now I need to just rejig the whole thing.
You say checkers. I probably used the wrong analogy with chess. My team is more like battleships and everything is sinking.
Yours is like that chess from Star Trek that's on the different platforms. We don't quite understand.
It almost feels like that, and it almost feels like that.
We never understand it, but by God, if it doesn't look good. But speaking of things that look good, we're bringing back an old favourite, Damo, because we've had opening round, we've had a bunch of games, and we're here to talk about what caught our eye. Maybe we need a sting or something for that.
I'll work on a sting for what caught your eye.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Hey, Damo, what caught your eye from opening round?
Nazaya getting tagged. I was on him, then off him, then on him, then off him all preseason. Even when I did the coaches panel episode with MJ for Nazaya Wanganeen-Malera, I found in my research that his best scores from last season didn't actually come from midfield time or a role in the midfield. So him getting tagged is just another element of something that he has to deal with by moving into the midfield. But maybe the role isn't the role we want him to have from a Supercoach perspective. So even though he was in, he's now out again, and I've used that money elsewhere.
I think the thing about this NAS tag is I'm not going to sit here and talk anyone out of it, right? But for me, the big concern is that now he's got a little stinky score in his price cycle, which means that he's going to need to do exceptionally well against Melbourne, which possible. We don't know which Melbourne is going to come out this year. Brand new squad, brand new coach. And then he also has to do well in the following game to maintain his price. So if you were already worried that he was too expensive, this by all means should mean that you are not considering him for your starting side. He should not be coming in at all. We've said in the past, and depending on the circumstances, I reserve the right to change my opinion on this. You know, that price doesn't matter if you're not planning on trading out the guy, but it matters absolutely with your starting squad because every penny counts with those first few guys that you are using as your structure to build something off. If I had a guy that was in the opening round that I was like, okay, this is absolutely like top price, top shelf. You know what? Actually, the best comparison is Bont, right? We watched Bont. Bont had a bit of a weird role over in the Bulldogs and Brisbane game. Played a little bit forward, he played a little bit on ball, but he still managed to bring his score to something that was respectable, which I think kind of shows the difference in NAS's experience dealing with the tag, dealing with the new attention. And like you said, Damo, you know, previously not scoring as a midfielder. Something that can come in time, but I think this means that we can jump on him when the elevator's coming down.
Yeah, and I think... And when Nate put out his under 5% club article, he pointed out that everyone was jumping on NAS, but his price came all the way down at the beginning of last season, and he was even cheaper then. So if NAS has a similar start to the season, then his price is going to drop significantly and be a nice early upgrade somewhere in our defenses, as long as he gets back on the horse and can get back to that scoring that we wanted to get when we paid $622K for him. Nate wasn't talking about Nazaya being an under 5% owned player. I think he was talking about Jack Sinclair at the time. But the point of bringing up Nas in that article was to point out how much money Nas might lose in the first part of the season if he starts slow again. And he's been tagged. He's only scored in the mid-70s. His price is going to come down in that first price change unless he pumps out a massive score in round 1 against Melbourne, which is possible, but it's also not impossible that he doesn't produce a great score again. And maybe the midfield time is great for St Kilda, but is not great for Supercoach and Nazaya's role for us in Supercoach. The other thing that really stood out to me was, even though he was getting tagged, no one at St Kilda went to help him. Like, you see at other clubs when Nick Dacos gets tagged, the guys try and free him up a bit by trying to get in the way of the tagger and all that sort of thing. You see the same at other clubs when their stars get tagged. There was no team mentality to try and free up Nazaya from his tag. There was just a kind of, he has to work it out himself. We've got other things to do, kind of, is what it kind of looked like. And I guess it's just something that we need to sort of monitor, because we avoid players who can't handle a tag, especially early on in the season. And if Nazaya is going to be a guy that can't handle the tag, then maybe he's a guy that we don't jump on straight away, and he's a guy that we wait for the price to drop on.
Yeah, I mean, all this to say that Stephen King has pointed out that he won't be running a tag on Nas, which 50-50, right? That's exactly what someone who is running a tag on Nas would say publicly, but it's also what new coach would be saying.
I mean,
hey, I'm going to back my system, which, by God, don't do that. That's exactly what the last guy did, and he got fired.
I mean, it's exactly what Craig McRae said before the game on Sunday. He wasn't going to run a tag, and then here comes Harry Perryman.
One thing that caught my eye, Damo, a couple of things that caught my eye. Christian Petrarca showing some value at his price point. We were obviously worried about his role in the Suns side.
Yep.
What caught my eye is that this creates a big old asterisk next to him, because he is top price in the forward line. He had a career game on the weekend with 34 disposals, 3 goals, and a couple of tackles and a lot of meters gained in that game. But I'm not sure that is output of a player that I would have in my side for the entire year. I think, obviously, I'm not thinking that he'll get 170 every week. But when Matt Rowell comes back, does that change where Christian Petrarca gets his minutes and disposals from? He looked fantastic, right? And we know that this is what he's capable of. Did it scare you off at all, Damo, or did it get you to bring him in?
I mean, I've been off him most of the preseason. I have played around with versions of my team with him in it. I've got him in, and I've got him in, and I think I'm going to keep him in. But the thing that concerned me the most was post game when Damien Hardwick mentioned that him and Bailey Humphrey are almost going to rotate through the midfield, and how much of the midfield time either one of them gets will depend on matchups. And then you got Matt Rowell to add into the mix in 4 to 5 weeks' time, and then what does that look like again? I will say, though, Petrarca looks rejuvenated. He looks like he looks refreshed. He looks like he's enjoying football. So I think I'm not buying him on the back of a 170 score. I'm buying. Well, I mean, I kind of am because I want the price rise and I want the cash generation. I want the healthy money. But I'm buying him on the back of, if he is going to have games where he can pull out this kind of performance, regardless of who's in the Gold Coast side, he's going to be one of the top forwards to end the season. So I think starting him, while the role might not be maintained, I think the scoring will be good enough that you're starting a top 6, top 8 forward, and you just don't need to touch him.
What's the difference when we're talking to you? What's the difference when we're talking about someone like Nas, who we know has the capability for sealing, but obviously struggled in this game, and we're saying he's too expensive, we can't take the risk, when Petrarca, I would say, is arguably almost top priced in the forward line, but his risk is lowered. Would you say this is reactionary based on one game, or do you think that there is something that differentiates? I'm not trying to play devil's advocate.
No, of course.
Specifically with you, Damo, but I think this is something
of course.
listeners are probably asking themselves.
Look, I'll speak from a personal standpoint for me. I turned Nazaya into Petrarca, basically, by moving Grill into my defense, moving Bruin from my flex into my midfield, which opened up a spot in my forward line because I put somebody in my forward line into my flex position. So there was a nice place there for Petrarca to walk into. That extra $100,000, because they're $100,000 difference in price, pretty much exactly, allowed me to bring in a safety blanket to just give me a little more confidence in starting Lockie McAndrew at R2. So, and to be honest, I like the safety blanket with Christian Petrarca more than I like Nazaya. Even though both players are likely to be top in their lines, Nazaya obviously has to work out if he can handle a tag or not. I like having the value of Petrarca in my forward line with the security around the rest of my team.
One other thing that caught my eye, Damo, was the better brother, Josh Daicos, had a prolific game on the weekend. Second, apparently, only to his brother. Some people may argue the difference there, but 36 disposals for him, a tackle, 3 clearances, from 89% on time on ground. Just honestly like an all-time game from Josh in terms of Supercoach scoring. So he came home with hot little 134. Is he someone who is maybe making his way into your side? Under 550, so he suits Lekdog's rule of no defenders under 550. But I say this, I'm going to give you a head-to-head, Damo. I've been thinking about this. I'm going to give you a little head-to-head because somebody else put up a nice little Supercoach score on the weekend just gone from the same team. We got a 94 from Dan Houston. Now, I know 94 is not a big score compared to Josh Daicos, but Dan Houston is also significantly cheaper than Josh Daicos. Are you tempted by either of these guys? Do you think that you could pick one of them?
Look, I do think I could pick one of them. Dan Houston probably more than Josh Daicos. It's
about $100,000 difference.
Yeah, it's about $100,000 difference. It's almost as if they have worked out how to unlock Dan Houston, because last season they really struggled to get the Dan Houston of Port Adelaide in terms of what they were bringing in, and now it looks like they've unlocked it. They just hand the ball to him or Josh Daicos at any point coming out of defense and then let them do their jobs. Like, it wasn't the case last season that they were given that responsibility, either of them. And Dan Houston at $431,000, well, he was above $500,000 the last 2-3 years in Supercoach. He could be $100,000 underpriced.
Well, it's very funny that you mentioned that, Damo, because I've actually looked at the heat maps for both of them from this game in particular, and they are almost identical. So their possessions are coming off the defensive pocket and then spreading out. Obviously, Josh Daicos with a few more possessions to draw some from, but his possessions sort of start in that defensive area and then move out a little bit to the wings and obviously moving through the ground. Dan Houston's starting from that area and then moving a little bit through the center of the ground, obviously trying to be a focal point to angle delivery into the forward 50. A very reminiscent of kind of how he operated at Port Adelaide. As far as mid-prices go, I think that means that we need to be considering Dan Houston alongside the likes of, in my case, the Wayne Millers of the world, the Archie Roberts of the world, the Colby McKerchers of the world, because he is a known quantity. He's best 22, so you have some security there. Essentially, they're going to try and bring him back to that form. I don't think that role goes away just because Josh Daicos is also working it out of halfback. I think Josh Daicos gets him his points in a very different way. Just something to consider, but it was interesting to see.
The one thing that I will point out is their defense operated very differently because they didn't have the likes of Darcy Moore or Jeremy Howe. They were missing a few key pieces to their defense. I would love to see how Dan Houston, especially Dan Houston, not so much Josh Dacos, operates once they've got a bit more, once they've got their best 23, their best team's defense out there. Because I don't know if he was taking a role or if that's just his role for this season. And at 431k, you could probably wait and see, because you'd likely have someone in defense who can go down to him, and it frees up a bit of cash if something needs to be fixed later on, because his price rise is now going to happen after this week, but he's still a good price if he can repeat the efforts this week against Adelaide.
That's a tough matchup for them. Damo, opening round. Should it be part of Supercoach? We've got this question written on the docket, and I'm not quite sure the context behind it. So, if you can,
Okay.
Should it be part? Is it not already technically?
Well, it is, but it isn't, because like you can change your team. Nothing changes. Nothing counts towards your total trades. Like, people are jumping on players after opening round, and then people are complaining that all these teams are looking the same. My issue is people want opening round to be part of Supercoach. So like they want opening round to count as a round, like they want your team to be locked out and count towards scoring an overall rank. If opening round is part of Supercoach and you're worried about teams looking exactly the same, and there's only half the teams playing in opening round, your Supercoach squad is only going to have players from that opening round in it. And with all due respect to some of the teams that are featured in opening round, some of those teams only have 2 or 3 relevant players. So there's going to be the same teams either way. You're either going to have an entire team geared toward opening round and then opens itself up through trading throughout the season, or a team that completely ignores opening round and just builds their team like normal and then starts way behind the pack and then eventually loses interest. I don't think having opening round as part of Supercoach is going to change people having the same teams or not. I think it's going to have people lose engagement quicker when they can't pick up the pace because they've either got the same team as everyone else, or their team completely flunked in opening round, or whatever you want to call it now, and they couldn't trade into a competitive squad. So I don't think that opening round should be part of Supercoach.
Are people really asking for this?
Yes.
Wild. Everything that you just said, obviously, I agree with. I think I can understand the frustration and asking the question that it's kind of a pod killer for those teams that are involved in opening round. And I imagine that's what the complaint really is. If we dig away at the whole thing about like, oh, everyone's squads look the same. We say that every year. Everybody says that every year. If there has been a year of Supercoach that I have been doing content and have been part of the community where people are going like, everyone's just locking in the same. Yeah, you know what? Everyone's locking in the same good players. Shocking. Everybody's got Zach Butters. Whoa. Water is wet. I think the complaint really drills down to, I have this player who is relatively niche. Let's think about somebody who's maybe considering, who did well on the weekend, Damo, that was probably flying a little bit under the radar. Windhager?
I mean, the one that stands out to me is Ed Richards.
Ed Richards?
I actually didn't realize how many teams he was already in, because he was only in like 2-3% when I picked him. And then like we've got a group chat for our draft league, and obviously these guys also have classic teams. A lot of them had Ed Richards, like even though he was only in 2% of teams, like
yeah, a lot of us did have Ed Richards. Shout out to friend of the show Jesse, former host of the Falcon, and the wonderful co-host of the Falcon, Chris, who is a Bulldogs fan and just likes Ed Richards. I can't remember if he's got him in the team or not, but I know that he just likes Ed Richards. But I think you also need to remember that round 0, does actually set people up for traps as well. And this kind of brings me to a player that I want to ask some questions about, which is Justin McInerney scored 142, is a mid-forward availability, and his selection in teams has gone up quite a lot for 476k because he suits that mid-price madness. We also have players in the likes of, Connor Budarick, who scored 105 in the Western Bulldogs game on the weekend. And these guys kind of came flying out of nowhere with really no data to insist that this is consistent.
I mean, Justin McInerney, 31 disposals, 3 goals, and I think half of those disposals and all 3 of those goals came in the third quarter when the Sydney Swans piled on 12 of them and then turned a 22-point deficit into a 50-point lead at three-quarter time. So there's context of the game to do with his scoring. There is the fact that he had 15 disposals. He had 3 goals. He was on the end of setting up a few others. I think I don't think he's going to do that every single week. I think they obviously like him through the centre and they paid him lots of money to keep him around. He recently signed a contract extension, but I don't think he's going to have 31 and 3 every single week. So I do like him though as an option for later in the season. I just don't know if I can jump on after his opening round score because I don't think it can be maintained, or I need to see it be somewhat maintained before I can jump on there. As for Connor Budarick, I think I think 105 is probably a ceiling for him. I would, estimate an 80 to 70, 80 average, which adds 150k onto his price anyway. So I'm happy with him, but I don't think 105 is going to be the norm that people should be expecting. We have to remember Bailey Dale came in and played off virtually no preseason work for the last month or so. Bailey Dale also looked a little underdone as well, so big watch to see if his role increases this week and then Budarick or Jakes or Selwood's role diminishes a bit. But yeah, I think I like Budarick's 245k. I think his value, regardless of what he does from here, it's just a matter of how quickly he can make his money to then allow us to cash him in.
Very good. To round that out, opening round, it's a good thing and a bad thing. We all know objectively for football, just make it a regular round. I saw the 1%ers over on Twitter had the outrageous suggestion that what if we get all of the teams together in 1 week and they play each other and we call it round 1.
Crazy.
Absolute insanity. Make sure you go follow those guys, by the way. They're absolutely hilarious and they've got some wonderful content out there. Damo, we need to put something on the radar, and that is that no medical sub means that there are more players. The 3,300 points needs to be spread across. So we haven't quite got enough data to really show a correlation between a decrease in the overall scoring. However, it's kind of simple maths, and it makes sense to use some specious reasoning to jump from, well, there's more people, therefore more points to be spread out.
Yeah. No sub equals more game time for more players. There's now 46 players that need to be given a full game score on. Obviously, clubs are using that 5th bench spot differently, but it means that there's probably about a 7% decrease in what scoring is going to look like. And it probably, leans into the argument of, is Bont too expensive at 706k? And I mean, this is probably evidence in the camp of, yes, he is probably too expensive.
I don't know. I don't think you're going to put a price on having Bont in your life, Damo.
One thing that I will say is I'd noticed in the St Kilda Collingwood game, I didn't really pay attention in the other games because I was happy with the way my players were scoring. Whereas in this game, it seemed like everything was kind of slow to move. In the last quarter, I saw some major scaling. Like, Champion Data held points back, thinking it was going to be a close game that needed some impact points given, like that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
So, I saw Nick Dacos go from 60 at halftime to 90 at 3/4 time, and he probably had better stats in the first half than he did in the third quarter. But he was only on 28, 38 points or whatever it was. So he jumped 60 points. Not really doing much different to what he was doing in the first half, just in the third quarter alone. So I do think that because there's more game time for more players, they're kind of having to hold back just in case. So I think the scoring is going to balance out eventually. I think they're just still trying to work out what the extra player does for impact and that sort of thing across a game.
Very good. Damo, this week we revealed our teams over on the footymailbag.net. Make sure you go check that out, listeners, by the way. They're very, very wonderful teams. Damo, myself, and our good friend Nate, who is writing the captain's articles for us this year, which is also up on the website. We shared our teams, wanted to know what you thought. Let us know how your teams are coming along. But Damo, I've got to ask, have you made any big changes since your reveal?
I've been good. I haven't touched my team. I said in my write-up, I'm not a huge fan of Whitfield at D1. He's still there at the moment, but I have been playing around with what I could do instead. I'm just not quite sure because his performance against Hawthorn didn't really fill me with a lot of hope for his season ahead, but especially at his price of almost 600k. But he's there for now, and if he remains there, I won't be upset. I just think he's going to drop in price.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's with all those 600 guys at D1 to 4 in the ladder. It's really hard to. That's Nass, Sinclair, Whitfield, and Ash. I found it very hard to lock one of them in my side at any point. Full disclosure, I've toyed around with. I had some extra cash and moving one of my mid prices up to Jack Sinclair based on his role and performance in opening round. It doesn't feel right though. It feels like a really tough price point to go, this is a good amount of value that is going to maintain. Obviously it's the reverse proposition to Nass where Sinclair's round 2 entry point is now 70 odd points to maintain price rather than a massive, like a 150 or anything like that. I've also been relatively good with my team. There's something about it that it feels very risky in spots. Obviously, we're in that panic before round 1. So a lot of content creators as well out in the Supercoach sphere are spreading every single drip of information that comes through. And there's a little element of holding your nerve that needs to happen. And I myself included, I'm very susceptible to this where, people have been sharing clips of talking about Lockie McAndrew not being able to play out an entire season, which obviously if you're starting McAndrew at R2 makes that feel very uncomfy. People talking about where Colby McKerch is going to play, where if you've been on him all preseason might be starting to make you feel a little bit uncomfy. Hold fast is probably my reaction to that. Wait for the dots. See where the dots land, and then adjust accordingly from there. Don't worry about these premium and mid-price guys. Hayden Young, being the other one, which Damo, should we be worried about Hayden Young? You're the Freo guy.
Wasn't injured, wasn't listed on the injury report, and Justin Longmuir said on Channel 7 that he's confident that he's playing. So I think it's okay.
Very good.
I mean, people are sharing that one or two tweets in that said that he wasn't on the track on Tuesday. I'm sure there was other players not on the track on Tuesday. They don't have a full session until Wednesday, Thursdays. So they usually have their own programs that they go and do early in the week. So I don't think being on the track, being under the public eye, even if most of the team should be a deciding factor on whether you panic or not.
Yeah. We're talking about my team reveal. A couple of players that got me feeling a little bit uncomfy, Damo.
I liked your team.
Thank you. I like my team too. But Sam Flanders, wasn't super impressed with what I saw in opening round.
I'm very much, I can talk myself into and I can talk myself out of him based on opening round. He didn't touch the ball in like the first quarter. That was the bit that got me the most worried about Sam Flanders. But then he scored 77 in about 3 quarters. So it sort of puts him around 95 for the entire game if he can maintain that for...
If he does something at all in the first quarter.
If he does something at all in the first quarter. So I think at 396k, I'm willing to give him another go. And but the good news is with Sam Flanders, there's a guy who we're about to see this week who's the exact same price, Sam Draper, who's a ruck forward. I'm not scared to use one trade early in the season if I need to make that flip.
Yeah. I think I've got to hold fast on Flanders, but I'm not feeling good. We're also seeing people jump off Keziah Pickett. He has gone back home to the Northern Territory to deal with a personal reason. That reason being just to be with his family. The reports are that he's spending time with his ex-partner and child. Obviously, that's a difficult time, and he's a young man. He's a young father. So, respectfully, stop being fuckheads about it on the internet.
I have been lucky enough to not see any of that discourse, but to hear that there is discourse is unfortunately not surprising.
Well, Damo, and an Indigenous player did something. So therefore, it's woke and deserves to have a racist diatribe around it. Which, if you're doing that, you're a piece of shit. If you're here listening to this podcast and you get to hear that message, I think you're a piece of shit if you're a racist. We literally had people last year calling people slurs on field, and I imagine that you would have been defending them as well. All players deserve care and support when it comes to dealing with personal matters that relate to their well-being and their family's well-being. It doesn't matter. I'm very proud that Stephen King came out and said this was a no-brainer. We will do everything we can to send him home regularly with an appropriate training program so that he doesn't miss out. He can come back and forth as he needs to manage this part of his life. And you know what? Perfect.
And this is nothing new for Stephen King, by the way, because Geelong do this all the time with their players. Like like a lot of Geelong's players do not live in Geelong. They have farmland outside of Geelong that they have to travel to.
Well, it comes with getting signed with Geelong.
True,
but they give you an acre.
But it means that he is not a stranger to setting up a player and trusting a player to maintain a program away from the football club. And I think treating an adult like an adult goes a long way in this sort of situation.
Yeah, this wasn't the point of bringing up Keziah Pickett, but I just thought an important thing to note, we hear at the mailbag, don't stand for that shit, be better, love other humans, and I want to be very clear, I apply this rule to all of the football players that I hate for their various crimes and skullduggery, or however you want to describe it. I think we should support people to be humans, to make sure that they can live their life without, having to feel completely depressed. Give them the tools to make good decisions and better decisions about their lives. Anyway, people are jumping off Keziah Pickett. Back to the main point at hand. He's still set to play. By all accounts, he's supposed to be back at training this week and then will be set to play on Sunday. Obviously, we cannot predict the impact that if there is a mental health aspect to this, whether, mentality, that's all extremely speculative. His role will still be there. His job is still to be a mid with some time in the forward to get that ball from Keziah to Latrell and go out there and be the best he can be. Whatever stuff around that. If you're still hot on Keziah, don't feel like you need to jump off. If you do feel like you need to jump off for whatever reason, jump to a Christian Petrarca. Pretty straightforward to do. Jump down to those guys who are Sam Draper. We've got all these options around there. Give yourself the parachute. And don't be a racist. Damo, it's time to jump to the questions before we continue down that thing. Now remember, listeners, you can submit your questions before 8 p.m. Wednesday, Melbourne time. to be included in that week's episode. And you can send us voice memos. That's on the website. If you want us to hear your beautiful voice, and we'll play your beautiful voice for the whole world, you can send that through our website next to the question form. Do it in a voice note. People love voice notes. Not me, but people love voice notes. This is different. I know when people... Damo, do you like voice notes? When people send you voice notes on Messenger?
There's only one person that sends me voice notes.
Is it Lek?
It is. And I get it, but I don't understand how he can do it while he's driving because it means that actually I shouldn't say he's driving. Vic Roads,
cut that.
Vic government, Vic police, he is definitely not reading messages while he is...
No, it's all hands.
Let's move on to the first question.
Footy Mailbag is the only time where it's appropriate for you to send a voice note. Cut the rest of that, Damo. Cut to Vinny has asked us, Parish, Oliver, or Canigliog, difficult to ignore, some mid prices to begin with, or best to continue with the rookies for cash gem. So I think this question is essentially, do you need to go with a Parish, Oliver, or Caniglio, or should you focus on the cheaper rookies and just build up that economy?
Go for a bit of both. I mean, out of those three, I think Parish is the one that stands out. Caniglio's heat map was entirely half-forward flank, so I don't think what he did against the Hawks is sustainable from a Supercoach point of view. Oliver looked good, like Petrarca in his new environment. Oliver looked refreshing.
Yeah, that was
in his
nice,
new
wasn't
environment. I mean, and look, it's nothing against Melbourne. Like, these two players just needed a reset, you know?
Nah, shit club, shit culture. That's what I hear. That's why I listen to everything that Caro tells me. No, but you're right. It was so good to see them happy playing football. Like, that's what you need. Melbourne's turned over a new leaf. They've turned over a new leaf. No love lost. I think Oliver is too expensive, though. If you're picking Oliver, you're picking him in the same way that you would pick like a Sam Walsh, a guy who's kind of underpriced but will be serviceable unless you need to upgrade him, or someone maybe who becomes a flex option down the line. I have Walsh in my current side, and he's kind of a guy who I'm like, good value, will probably bring me 110s most weeks with an occasional spike. That's my hope there. I don't think Oliver necessarily hits that high ceiling every week.
I should play the clip from the first episode or second episode we recorded this season where you said you weren't going to touch Sam Walsh.
Yeah, that's fine. I was convinced after the role that I saw during opening round.
I mean, to be honest, that first episode where we did the quickfire team previews, I probably said something about someone that's in my team. So,
nah, you know what, Damo? This is all made up. We're two grown men talking about the made up numbers that are associated with a sport that is great. However, yeah, Damo's right, Vinny. Go with a mixture of both that works with what you're comfortable with. Rookies obviously present the best cash generation, and you can solve everything else during that. If you're playing for overall, going with the rookies early and getting the cash gen is super important because you'll come home by the end of it, right? Like, you're not going to win Supercoach in the first 10 weeks.
Can I play? Sorry, let me play devil's advocate because you said rookies are important. I have seen data that says if you start the right mid prices, post buy or around the buy rounds, there's less money needed to flip to premiums, and you actually build your team up quicker. So you slide up the rankings much quicker by going from a mid-pricer up. So rookies are good, but if you get the right mid-prices, you're almost laughing.
To avocado your advocate, Damo, the key thing that you're saying there is that picking the right mid-prices.
Yes.
Which is not
easy.
Not always. It's not easy.
No, it's not
right?
easy.
And that's the reason why rookies are somewhat, in that sense, lower risk reward, right? Like, you get that reward because the break-evens are lower and the cash gen comes in larger spurts if the rookie is somewhat successful. However, if we pick Flanders, right, at 396 or whatever, and he doesn't become a premium, but he's only just making a little bit of money to get to 450 drip fed over a few weeks, that still doesn't feel as good. You know, but I completely agree with what you're saying. Obviously, less money used to flip is much better. This year, we have a plethora of really good mid-prices to pick from. I think that's the big difference this year. But very good to think about. I hope that helps you, Vinny. Tim, who may or may not be nebulous, we'll be the judges of that. We'll send a letter to the Nebulous Tim office and they'll be out to see you, Tim. Hey guys, who are we liking for R3? Reedy or Zane Zakatelski? Zakatelski?
ZZ Top.
ZZ Top. He, no, you know what, hang on, let me have a look because I want to get Zakatelski. I was right the first time. This is for McAndrew as R2, of course. Reedy has not been named. As of the time of recording. This is one of the benefits of daylight savings affecting our recording times, is that we got the team list for Richmond. Carlton, Reedy has not been named. I've already removed him from my team. I'm not dealing with that. I'm going green ticks, baby. So if ZZ Top is named, he would be my R3. That feels like the right decision, right, Damo?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, Brisbane have Harris Andrews missing for 3 weeks, Darcy Gardner missing for 1 week. Zakatelski can play in the ruck or as a key defender. A bit of a weird mix, a bit of a Mark Blitzubs that Brisbane have there. I like him, especially if you're also starting Lockie Blackiston, because Lockie Blackiston will get that ruck defense DPP as well. So it'll be a good flip, even if ZZ does die eventually.
Yep, very good. Tim has also asked us if we had to choose one of Cogs, Parrish, or Bruin, who would you pick, Damo?
Bruin.
Bruin is the one for me as well. I liked his role very well, and Parrish kind of still has... I've cooled a little bit on Parrish.
Bruin looked good against the Suns, and in a game where Geelong got dominated, he looked clean.
Yeah,
like
definitely took the opportunity, right?
Yeah, and
you can really feel
it. And if it was a game where Geelong won, I imagine that 91 would have been a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think it probably would have scraped 2 or 3 figure.
Yeah,
like a low hundo, possibly a 99.
Yeah, like maybe a Butterick score, like a 105.
Yeah, I hope that helps, Tim. Yeah, pick Bruin, Parrish, and then Cogs in that order.
Yes.
Benji has written to us and said, can we really trust Bevo to keep Butterick in the role that he had and not to flip to Fraser like he had in the preseason? There's a few other questions in there, but, we'll answer part one first. Damo, do you trust Butterick?
I'll say this. When the Bulldogs go and recruit a specific player like Connor Butterick is not a star player. He was out of favour at the Suns, and then when he was in, he wasn't playing a great role. He wasn't a standout player, but the Dogs went and got him, and now he is part of that defence. So I would say you can trust Butterick. You can trust Bevo to play Butterick. I don't think you can trust Butterick to score 105s every week, though. And I don't think that's what you should be picking him up to expect. I said in the early part of this episode, 70s to 80s is probably what I would estimate his average to end up at. Gives you 150k on his starting price. Perfect stepping stone.
Honestly, yeah, make your money and then move on. If you're picking Butterick, that's where I'm at as well. Benji's also asked, he says, who do you trust more? The defender mid-prices like Windsor or Blackiston, or the forward mid-prices like Lawler and Butterick?
I have flipped backwards and forwards with this one. I think I trust Windsor and Blackiston more than Lawler and Butterick.
I trust both of them the same amount because I know Windsor's going to have the role, but the scoring, I don't know about the scoring. Blackiston as well. The role could be temporary because Nick Bryan exists.
I have been told that it's Blackiston's role to lose.
By who?
By an Essendon person.
Mr. Essendon himself. I can't believe Patch would say that.
Shout out to Todd and Jasper who have the Flight Plan podcast.
Oh, very good. Now, I don't like Lawler's price, I think.
I need to see Lawler. $298k for a guy that played 11 games in his debut season.
Well, if you remember, Damo, this time last year we saw a little bit more of Lawler than we wanted to.
I do remember, but I've tried not to remember, but I do remember. Thanks.
Lawler's ballers.
But you're too happy with that.
I am too happy with that. That wasn't my best work.
But yeah, I mean, a guy that's in his second season, he's played 11 games, and we're confident picking him up for 298k. I actually looked for him when I was building my very first team, like when the team picker first opened, because I didn't realize how much he averaged in those 11 games. I was hoping that he would be under 200k. If he was 100k cheaper, I'd put him in my side, no fucking worries. At 298k, sorry, 100k too dear for me.
I find it interesting because when I think of Lawler, I think of a guy who looks like Dustin Martin and kind of plays like him. So I feel like there's like a level of expectation in me where I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be big one day. I don't know if I have the stomach for it. I know some people who are very hot on that, and I love it. I love it. If you're confident in him, love the Lawler pick. It's not for me. Mostly, I want to see it first. I'd be happy to correct into Lawler if it looks really friendly when they play Carlton tomorrow night. But that's in the same way that, like, you know, I'll be looking at Sam Banks playing alongside Grill and Jaden Short, right? Like, you've got a lot of ball to share around between a very talented Richmond side, and I'm waiting for this new wave of Richmond premiums. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, Dame. I keep on looking at Richmond and I'm like, none of these players are like quote unquote like premium players to me when I look at them. I'm like, there's a lot of really good players, like, you know, obviously Taranto and Hopper are a bit of pedigree, and they've got Tom Lynch, who, you know, has been good at football at one point in time. But then I look at their followers and they're like, we've got Jack Ross on the ball, and I'm like, who? I forgot about him. He's just, you know, guys like Kane McCullough, who I'm like, oh yeah, like, he's had a couple of good games. As I'm waiting for, like, I think very soon we're going to see a couple of Richmond players put themselves like a cut above the rest. We all jumped on Jaden Short last year, and that hurt a lot. That hurt a lot to do. So, I don't know. It's tough. Go with Windsor and Blackiston, Benji. That's our call there. We've got our final question here from Con, who says, I'm after a vibe check from Clarkey on starting Archie Roberts and Lockie Blackiston. Con, vibes are good. Vibes are up there. This guy has Archie Roberts. I don't have Blackiston, but only because, yeah, Damo's convinced me now, I think, that he's got an insider source, and I trust Damo. Archie Roberts, good vibes from me, and very easy to pivot from because there's a few people around his price range, as we've mentioned before. Kind of easy to switch to the mid-pricer that is popping off, or just to save a little bit extra in your bank so that you can go up to one of those 500k guys who's a bit more stable, but looks to have a really good role. Blackiston also has his job to lose. I don't know. Signs feel good. Does it feel good, Damo? Am I being presumptuous?
I like Archie Roberts. I'll be looking at him when I do my upgrades later in the season. Lockie Blackiston, I love him. I liked him when he was at East Fremantle. He was a very good ruckman in the waffle. And I think he's going to like the new rules. I think he suits them.
You think he suits them?
Yeah.
Very good. Looking at my team now, I'm 5k short of bringing in a Blackiston, so well, there goes that dream.
Nah, you'll find the 5k somewhere.
Yeah, it's fair. Goodbye, Jack Sinclair. All the way back down to Colby McKercher? No, I couldn't do that.
Do you want to know who I like in defence that I think that, like, I keep putting in my team and going, man, that would be a fun pick?
Who?
Josh Worrell.
Oh, the other Adelaide defender.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Miller seem to share the kick-ins.
I think Worrell's going to have a bit of extra responsibility with Mark Keane out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, once again, I feel like the Adelaide defensive line is kind of looking for a new major player to come through. Is Rory Laird back there now?
He is, yeah, and at 559k, I don't mind him.
Yeah. Rory Laird, Worrell, and Miller are all very interesting to me, Supercoach-wise. I've seen Laird go quite late in some of the drafts that I've been doing, and no matter where he goes, it feels like such a value pick.
Oh yeah. I've done quite a few drafts this preseason, and seeing the people that slip through in each draft, it's quite amazing. I picked up Jacob Hopper in one of the last rounds for one of mine, and I know Jacob Hopper's not like a massively awesome Supercoach pick, but
In draft,
in draft, he's like a 4th, 5th round midfielder.
Getting a player who is best 22 in like the 5th or 6th round feels great, depending on the size of your draft.
Definitely.
Oh, probably something that we should mention before we're done with the questions. By the way, we're going to head back in from the ranch. I hope you guys wore your boots out here. It's muddy. Tom Blamirez.
I think it's Blamirez. I've heard people say Blamires. I've heard people say, I don't know what people call him. Let's just Kablamo. Let's call it. Let's just call him Kablamo.
T-Blam has been confirmed to be debuting 99k rookie, who is mid only, and also Lockie Doverston, forward for North Melbourne, confirmed to be debuting this week. And just something to consider.
And more importantly, Lockie McAndrew has been named to debut for Adelaide because it's his first game.
Shocking.
Because it's his first game for the Crows.
Shocking but wonderful. Long live the rookie R2.
Sam Grill, obviously, he's going to debut. He has the green tick. You mentioned that earlier. I remember now.
The beautiful green tick. Isn't there another Richmond player who has a beautiful green tick, Damo?
Dyson Sharp, Hussein El Akar, and Max Kondagianis instead of Jacob Farrow, named to debut for Essendon.
Poor Farrow. I saw someone earlier today talking about him taking kick-ins during the practice game, or the match sim.
Kondagianis at 113k makes an interesting discussion because we kind of needed a player in that range, but the trouble is we're pretty set with rookies now in defence, so it's almost like he's come at a point where we don't need him.
Where are all the forward rookies, Damo? We ask this every year. When will the forward rookies come?
Doverston, Marshall, Lombard, Robertson, Philippou.
Marshall's not a rookie.
I mean, he's rookie priced.
His rookie price is not the same. Gibkiss also named in Richmond's side, 139k defender. Harry Armstrong, 171k forward. Very good.
Very good.
Jonty Fall, 216k if you're feeling nasty.
Your team would be looking nasty if you had to pick Jonty Fall.
Very good. Speaking of things that don't look nasty, Damo, the traffic lights are coming this week. The rookie traffic lights will be posted on Thursday after the teams are named. Make sure you keep an eye on your feeds. They'll be split into field, bench, or leave. This is pretty self-explanatory. We're doing a new thing. Turns out red, yellow, and green. You know, it's old. It's woke.
Oh no, I mean field, bench, and leave are still going to be green, yellow, red. There's just going to be a name for it now.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting rid of green, yellow, and red. We're killing them. They've been cancelled. They were on the Epstein list. We have to get new names, new faces. So field is obviously safe to field. Bench is a bench preferred option, and leave is obviously too expensive or low expected score, bad job security, blah 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 blah. We'll read the blurb, read the little blah blahs that we'll put on there. So make sure you keep a lookout on them across our socials and our website, where we grade the players each week and we give them one of those ratings. We'll update them if they need to be once Sunday teams are confirmed.
Yeah. I mean, most of the rookies that are going to be green, most people would know what they look like. The yellow ones, people probably know by now which rookies they should be picking. But just in case, Thursday after teams, rookie traffic lights, there for everyone to see.
I think it's good to have a concise list somewhere. Because I think it's always like you always forget about one or two guys, and if you're hot on one rookie, not the other. And
let me say this. I might not list every rookie price player on that traffic light.
Damn it.
But I list all the relevant ones that people are talking about. So in the comments, if you ask me about a rookie, I will tell you how I would have rated them, but I'm not going to update it to include them just because you feel like they've been left out.
Yeah, make your own traffic lights if you want to add in your guy. These are about our guys. But also we're human and Damon does most of the work. Yeah, let's call it what it is. Damon does most of the work with this. I help write some of the blah blahs sometimes and give my thumbs up and put it on the fridge. Which Damo likes it when I put it on the fridge.
Pretty much.
Damo, vice captains and captains for this week. Make sure you check out Nate's captains article this week, which also contains our picks, but for those playing at home.
Pretty cool thing on the website, actually. So if people are looking for his captain's article, you can head to the front page of the website. You don't need to click into any menus or anything. There is a graphic in the middle of the screen that literally says captains. And there's a little arrow that points to it that says click for the latest. If you click on that captain's picture, it takes you straight to the article. And that's going to be updated every single week just to give you a nice little easy access. And then there's also going to be another one for traffic lights as well. So you guys can check that every time without having to go all the way through the website and look in our dirty laundry.
Yeah, thanks, Nate, for putting that together. And don't look at our laundry. Stay out of my basket. And that ends another episode of the Footy Mailbag, Damo, with that really strong piece of comedy that I'm exerting there. If you haven't given us a rating or a review on your listening platform of choice, make sure you do so. It helps us get into the blah blahs of the algorithms, but nothing helps us more than word of mouth. So if you'd enjoyed us over preseason, if you enjoy us generally, or if you are a smart, wonderful individual, make sure you tell your friends about us. That helps us quite a lot. The more listeners that we can get, just, we need to grow the show to keep making this viable. We love doing it, but it's nice to do it to people. It's nice to have engagement. You can also find us at Footy Mailbag on X and Facebook, at the Footy Mailbag on Instagram, and thefootymailbag.net is our website. Damo, where can people find you?
At DamoSC on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. Hellhole.com.
And an underscore to that for his Instagram, where if he posts he has been kidnapped, that is the rule. Ladies and gentlemen, send help. You can find me at QuantumJC on Twitter, but you can also check out my other podcast, The Falcon, which is at Falcon Footy Pod. We have a new fourth host who is my wife, Jess. She's debuted now, and that's going well.
No,
I like that.
Is there a Rising Star nomination coming along, or just working on that still?
We'll see. She has to have an outstanding performance in one of these episodes to be nominated.
So she's going to get the nomination off body of work, not of one game. Not of one performance.
Yeah, and much like me, I'm still in my probation period, and her probation period will be running for a little bit as well. No, it's great. I love having her on. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, listeners. That feels weird to say. We'll see you next time. Love you. Bye. Good luck.
Good luck for the season.